Welcome to our Family Caregiver webinar. The topic today is safety at home. My name is Carrie McClellan. I'm the Director of Outreach and Community Engagement for ElderHelp, and I will be helping to facilitate today's webinar. We have Jean Alton here with Alzheimer's San Diego, and I will do a formal introduction for her in just a few moments. So thank you all so much for joining us today for this very important topic. All right. So just before I introduce Jean and today's topic, I wanted to just share a little bit about ElderHelp. So our organization has been around for over 50 years, and we support older adults who are still living in their own home out in the community who want to age in place. And through that, we also assist and support family caregivers who may be caring for their aging loved ones or looking for resources and ways to support them. So we appreciate the opportunity to be able to support both seniors and family caregivers in the community. I want to just give a quick shout out to Grossmont Healthcare District for sponsoring today's webinar. We're grateful to have corporations and other entities support our efforts along the way. And this just gives a brief overview of ElderHelp services so that you can walk away knowing what we do and how we provide support. So at ElderHelp, we offer a variety of services to help older adults, as I mentioned. We offer information and referral services as well as daily check-in calls that are called Are You Okay? We offer a transportation program through volunteers, which is called Seniors A Go-Go. Our care coordination program connects clients with a degreed social worker who can help to assess needs and provide additional support and resources over time, in addition to volunteer support that helps with grocery shopping, friendly visits, home safety and maintenance projects, a variety of different services that are provided through that program. Our nutrition services offers that grocery shopping as well as a pantry delivery service. And then we do offer a home share program, essentially a roommate matching service through our housing services department. And today's webinar is part of our family caregiver support program. So in addition to our information and referral that's always available to anybody who might be looking for resources, we also offer webinars that cover a variety of topics related to being a family caregiver and trying to just help make sure people are connected with the support that they might need over time. And we're really grateful to be able to partner with Alzheimer's San Diego on many of those topics, especially related to caring for a loved one who may be living with dementia, as there's a lot of complexities and different situations that might come up. So we appreciate their expertise and being able to share that with all of you. ElderHelp has also created online courses that are available. They're basically self-paced tutorials that you can access from our website on our family caregiver page that helps you understand what it means to be a family caregiver, how to create a care team, and there's other topics that are included as well. So I encourage anybody to check those out if you haven't done so already. And that brings me to my introduction of today's speaker, so Jean Alton with Alzheimer's San Diego, and I will share her bio so you know all about Jean. So Jean Alton has several years of experience working with people living with dementia, their care partners, and their families. She has worked in a variety of settings, including memory care, adult day programs, as a support group facilitator, dementia care coach, professional certified geriatric care manager, which is now called an aging life care professional, and currently as a dementia educator. Jean has been with Alzheimer's San Diego since 2018, providing both in-person classes and online presentations on many different topics within the areas of dementia. Jean has a bachelor's degree in psychology and recreation therapy for the aging population. She is also a TPSNO positive approach to care certified independent trainer. So thank you so much, Jean, for joining us today and sharing more about this important topic. I know there's a lot of aspects with safety at home, especially caring for a loved one living with dementia. So I know you're going to teach us a lot, so thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the kind words and introduction, Carrie. So good morning, everybody. I'm glad to have you here with us today. So yes, safety at home. So what we're going to do today is kind of look at an overview of the safety issues and concerns that we want families to start looking at and begin addressing and taking some steps to uh, maybe make some changes or some changes in just day-to-day routines in order to just ensure safety when we are dealing with a person living with a diagnosis of some type of dementia. So what I'll tell you is that if you call us or if you call ElderHelp too, each of our organizations can provide you with more detailed and in-depth information on the major topic areas we'll cover here today. So this is just to get you thinking about things. So let's get started, Carrie. Our agenda for today.
Yep, and as I'm going to advance the slide and also want to let everybody know that if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, please feel free to type them in to the question pane and we will go through those at the end.
Right, thank you. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the physical and cognitive symptoms of dementia and how that's impacting safety awareness. And then we'll talk about just some ways to kind of reduce safety risks and mitigate some of the things that are contributing to potential safety risks. And we'll talk about some community safety resources. So let's get started with physical and cognitive symptoms. And next. So very briefly, and I am making kind of the broad assumption that all of you here have some good basic knowledge of dementia, but obviously dementia is describing symptoms that are being caused by something that's going on with a person, a disease or a condition, and it's impairing cognition, it's impairing memory, it's causing oftentimes behavior changes. And all of these things are significant enough to interfere with normal activities. So let's go on to more details here. So memory, of course, is one area that many people with dementia have problems with. Their memory is poor, particularly their short-term memory. So the recall is not good, and they have what we call rapid forgetting. So this is when people are asking you the same question over and over again, either where are we going today? What are we doing? Or, whatever it might be, we hear them asking it over and over and over again. And it's because they can't get that information into their short-term memory. The part of the brain that is responsible for helping us to form memories in the hippocampus is not functioning properly anymore because of the dementia, whatever type of dementia it is. And people are also having difficulty navigating in familiar places. And this can be in their own neighborhood, their own community, even if they've lived there for many, many years. Sometimes, though, it's even in their own home, starting to have difficulty, for example, finding where the bathroom is. So when we think about these things in terms of safety, think about just all the things in daily life that we rely on our memory for. And the first one that always jumps to my mind here is medication. So if you have a dementia that is affecting your memory, how do you keep track of if you took your medication today or not? Did you take it, or did you forget, or did you take it and forget that you took it, so you take it a second time or a third time? So medication is an area that is ripe for safety concerns when we're talking about memory issues. With judgment, what we see is increased impulsivity and poor decision making. And so that could, in terms of safety, affect everything from making unwise decisions about purchasing things or being convinced and persuaded by the door-to-door salesman to purchase a new roof from him, to looking at what you have going on the stovetop and not remembering, did I turn the burner on or not? So you touch the hot pot or even the hot burner itself. So impulsivity and poor decision making, that those qualities that we have that helps us to take in information and look at it logically and with good reason, and then kind of problem solve from there. That's all being impacted by the dementia. With orientation, again, people can have trouble with orientation to where they are, their location. They can also have difficulty tracking the passage of time. Time may move very quickly for them, or it may move very slowly. And so, for example, if you say to your spouse with dementia, I'm just going to run out to the grocery store. I'll just be half an hour tops. I'll be right back. And that half an hour seems like it's been hours and hours and hours to the person with dementia. And maybe they get worried about you and think, well, I'm going to go start looking for my wife. Where is she? She's been gone all day and I don't know where she is. So that's the type of challenges with orientation we see going on that can cause safety issues. And another one I'll mention, just with regards to maybe having difficulty with knowing where where you are. So orientation to place is if a person with dementia is out doing their normal routine in the community, and all of a sudden they look around and say to themselves, I don't know where I am. And so they start looking for, home or wherever it is that they want to go to, and end up getting even further off track and potentially further away from home. So orientation can lead to safety risks with regards to wandering as well. With behavior, we do see in many people with dementia changes in mood or personality, and emotions can be very up and down, very volatile. And people can get easily confused or upset when routines are disrupted. Routines are, a positive thing for people with dementia, but when they are interrupted or disrupted, it can cause a lot of upset in a person with dementia. Now, why would this be a safety risk? Well, if I'm the primary care partner for my spouse with dementia and I've disrupted his routine today because I'm trying to hurry him along and get showered and get dressed and everything because we have a doctor's appointment, and he's upset with me now, maybe he's going to refuse to go to the doctor's or refuse to get in the car or refuse to get out of the car. Or even, I'll say this one because I've talked to a few families over the years that this has happened to, where they've been traveling someplace in the car and the person with dementia is upset at the care partner and the person who's driving, and they try to get out of the car when it's moving. So these are just examples of how behavior and changes in behavior can impact safety. With physical abilities, we see changes, of course, as a part of aging in our balance, strength, and mobility, but these are exacerbated. They're more so in people with dementia, and they're also losing fine motor skills. And so this could be a problem for everything from, let's say this is a coffee cup with hot coffee in it. If my fine motor control isn't working so well, I could potentially drop this on my lap even. So this is where, safety can be impacted. With balance, strength, and mobility, excuse me, what we see is people are at higher risk for falls because of the changes in those physical abilities. With the senses, we see changes in all of the senses. And it's not because the senses aren't working properly anymore, but because the information that the senses are taking in and that are going to the brain are not being processed correctly. Carrie, can I just get you to click on that senses and see if that, there we go. And so an example is there's some significant changes to the visual field in people with dementia. The vision becomes much narrower. They start to lose peripheral vision. And again, it's not because the eye is not seeing, it's because the brain and the eyes together are not processing that information correctly. So they're having problems, not getting that peripheral information, also with depth perception. And so an example there is, again, putting them at higher risk for falls. But even just think for a person who, maybe was fairly recently diagnosed with some type of dementia and is still okay to be driving, at some point in the disease progression, that visual field is going to narrow and they're not going to be getting that peripheral information. Well, you can imagine how that's going to impact your ability to be a safe driver. There's decreased recognition of the sensory information. So again, just reiterating that it's not that the senses aren't working well, it's that the communication between the senses and the brain isn't working well. And so maybe there's some food burning on the stove because I put something on there and I forgot about it. And there's burning and there's a smell of burning, but my nose is not, it's not registering between my nose and my brain that this is a burning smell that I need to go investigate. And so I may not do anything as a person living with dementia. So this is how senses can be impacting safety. So that's just to give you some ideas of how these diagnoses of different types of dementia are things that we need to anticipate changes in with disease progression, and that we need to anticipate increasing safety risks and try to do our best to be proactive and addressing these concerns before something happens. Let's go to the next slide. So let's just talk about some of the ways to reduce some of the risks in just areas of daily life. So first of all, we have two approaches. We can try and prevent things from happening by controlling what we can in the environment, and then we can adapt by adjusting the environment around the things that we don't have control over. So we'll look at kind of both these areas as we go along. So next one. It's really important for care partners to, on a regular basis, ask themselves, and even better, sit down with others, family members or caregivers who know the person with dementia well, who see them regularly, maybe even on a daily basis, but who know them and know their routines and kind of how they operate and behave day-to-day life. For you as a care partner and any other caregivers who are contributing, to sit down and ask yourselves, does the person with dementia know when and how to get help? Now, we have to do a little bit more than just ask those questions in this instance too, because my husband with dementia, if I say, do you know how to get help? What would you do if there was a fire on the stove? And his answer may be to call 911 to get the fire department here. And that's a good answer. But the question is, does he know how to do that, to do the follow through? Does he know where his phone is? Does he know how his phone works? Think about it. Most of us are using smartphones these days, but how do we make the screen, before here, it's black. How do we make that come to life? How do we make it work for us? How do we make it work as a phone? Where's the keypad to dial? You know, just we have to know those things and remember how those things work in order to be able to do the follow through. And beyond that, there's even more follow through. You don't just call 911 and ask for the fire department. You use judgment. If it's something burning in a pot on the stove, maybe you put the lid of the pot on it to stop the oxygen and stop anything from flaming up. If it's more than that, you know, maybe you need to just get yourself out of the house. You evacuate yourself, and, you know, any pets as well too. So again, the follow through is what we need to be checking on. Has the person ever wandered or become disoriented? And Carrie will have heard me say this many, many times over the course of our years of partnership. But honestly, if I had a nickel for every time I asked a family member that, and they said to me, oh, it's not a concern because, you know, he's never wandered. And the answer or the reply to that comment is nobody has ever wandered until the first time they wander. And this is very, very common in people with dementia. And we know that a majority of people with dementia will wander and become lost at some point in time. And so even though the answer to this question may be no, start thinking about it so that we can begin planning proactively in order to prevent a wandering incident. And then ask, do they require supervision and oversight for safety when they're not alone? In other words, I don't leave my husband alone anymore, but, you know, I have to keep my eye on him because he's not safe in the kitchen anymore to use knives. You know, he makes poor decisions and impulsive decisions and doesn't use good judgment. And so he may be thinking that the lawn needs mowing, and so he's out there with the mower trying to get it started, and maybe he even does get it started. And maybe that's an activity that he should not be doing any longer. You know, this is actually an example that I use too, is in our house. My husband's domain is the garage, and he has lots and lots of tools in there. And, you know, if he had a diagnosis of dementia, we would have to get rid of some of those tools, particularly the power tools, because he would no longer be safe to use those. And he may not have insight into that. He may think he's perfectly fine to use those tools the way he always has. But in fact, it's a safety issue. So these are the things we need to be thinking about and assessing on a regular basis, and then planning for. Please, please, it's so important. We hear from many, many families who call us because there's something has happened, some crisis or some emergency, and we don't want that for any of the families we work with. So join us in, you know, this whole idea of let's think proactively and begin planning and preparing for the changes that are going to happen with the diagnosis of dementia. So let's go to the next one. Yeah, so here it is. Ultimately, people living with dementia are going to require 24/7 supervision. And, you know, it's important we make these arrangements ahead of time with somebody who could step in the event of an emergency or urgent situation where maybe I'm sick, or I fall and break my hip, I'm injured, or there's a family emergency in another state and I need to leave, and I need to get somebody in here to provide supervision and oversight to my husband. So don't wait till something happens. Start getting these plans in place. The next one. Okay, so these are the areas we're going to look at a little bit. And again, we're not going to go in depth into each of these areas, but know that you can call either of our organizations, Alzheimer's San Diego or ElderHelp, and each of our organizations, we will give you additional information and ideas and tip sheets and things like that. So let's start with fall prevention. And again, people with dementia at high risk for falls, and in fact, just aging in general puts us at higher risk for falls. So what we want for sure is good lighting. And in fact, the more lighting in the home that you can achieve, the better. So, use those little night lights in the hallways to illuminate the floor and help guide people along the hallways. Use area lights, in all sorts of different spots, and be looking for where are the dark spots in the house. Also look at obstacles and clutter. So in some homes, people have kind of a stack of magazines or newspapers or books maybe beside a chair or a couch. Get those things off the floor and, into a better place where we're not so likely to trip over them. And that goes for any other clutter that may be, found on the floor and around furniture and so forth. We want handrails and grab bars throughout the home, and in particular in the bathroom, where we can get handrails installed in the shower and or the tub. Grab bars is what I mean, actually. But also we could get grab bars installed around the toilet and or have other devices that we use to help just assist with using the toilet. For example, a raised toilet seat, which makes it a little easier for a person to sit down on the toilet and then get back up again because they don't have to go the full distance. Look at your floor coverings. If you have area rugs, you should probably get rid of them. If you do need to have some mats, say at the front door in the event of some of our winters when we have rain, get non-skid mats and get mats that aren't thick, so they don't have a big edge we can trip over. It's important to maintain strength, flexibility, and balance as we age and whether we have a diagnosis of dementia or not. So if you're not already involved in an exercise program, get involved in one. There's plenty of resources you can go to either find these activities and join them, or to get the instructions for what to do while at home, chair yoga, things like that. And we have a program at Alzheimer's San Diego, amongst other activities. One is, it's exercise, it's movement and music, and, doing all these kind of exercises that are good for all three areas of strength, flexibility, and balance. Let's go to the next one. We need to think about other household injuries. And so again, limiting access to or adapting appliances, sharp objects, tools, equipment. Like I said, in our garage, I have to get rid of the power tools. But maybe in the kitchen too, I need to get the knives in a locked drawer. Maybe if my husband is starting to forget how to use the microwave safely, or is putting pots on the stove and then forgetting he's done that and walking away, maybe then I have to put some locks on the microwave that would be like child-proof locks, and do some similar things with the stovetop. Anything from removing the knobs to having a shut-off switch to the power or the gas, to locks that fit right across all the burners on the stovetop and secures this locked surface in place on top of the burners. Disable your internal door locks. Now, why that? Because, and this was one I never would have thought of till this actually happened to a family we worked with. The wife had dementia. Husband was her primary care partner. She went in the bathroom one day to, do her thing and locked the door. And when she was done, it was time to come out, and she couldn't remember how to unlock the door. And so she was shouting for him. He heard her, goes in there. He figures out she doesn't know how to unlock the door from the inside. He starts telling her how to do it, but she has, number one, she has dementia. And number two, she's upset and in a panic now. So she just wasn't able to do that, to unlock the door. So this husband ended up, he had to get his tools out and in fact take the door off the hinges. So get those internal door locks disabled right from the get-go, so there's no chance of that happening. Regulate your water temperature and your water heater. Recommendations are to set it no higher than 120 degrees for reducing the risk of scalding and burns. We need to think about safe chemical storage. Think in your house where all you have chemicals. Everything from Lysol to Windex to maybe in the medicine cabinet you have rubbing alcohol, or let's just say other medications even, or where you have window washer fluid or fertilizers and gardening things, herbicides and things like that, where you have those. So it's everywhere in our homes if you stop and think about it for a minute. And so what we want to do is get all those things together in a locked cupboard, and usually our recommendation is in the garage. And yes, it means we have to take an extra step out there with the key to get whatever item it is that we need. But you are potentially saving yourself from a really not good situation. So get those chemicals in a safe place. And then think about food safety too. And again, thinking back to when we talked about the senses, and that the information the senses take in is getting muddled up. It's not being processed correctly by the brain. And so food safety could be everything from eating something that's spoiled because the nose is not telling us properly that it's, we shouldn't eat it, it's past due. The taste is also not telling us that information, and even how it looks, we might not be seeing that you've got some mold on it or whatever it might be. And then of course with food safety, that can also mean everything from cutting things up, so using knives, to, is it at too high a temperature and we need to let it cool off, or do we just go ahead and eat it? And we use judgment to assess that. And in folks with dementia, judgment is being impaired. So, all right, let's try the next one. Medication. As I mentioned, this is an area that is going to require changes to how things are handled sooner rather than later, because medication, taking it properly and at the correct times and the correct dosage, is something that again requires us to have memory, to use good judgment, to do some problem solving and some planning, all areas that people with dementia are starting to have problems with. So use one pharmacy for all medications. And even if you're considering using some over the counter, something or other, say for a cold, you want something to deal with that stuffiness. Before you take, and this I would say is true for all of us, before you buy anything and take it for yourself, and certainly for your person living with dementia, talk to the pharmacist. They are the good source of information to go to that can identify possible drug interactions and side effects. And those things can happen with over-the-counter medications and how they interact with prescription medications that we're on. There's also some over-the-counter medications are just not advisable for people with dementia because they exacerbate the symptoms of dementia. They make those symptoms more so. Use a pill organizer, and care partners, this is an area that they're going to have to take over sooner rather than later in terms of organizing the pills and then administering them, providing that supervision and oversight. Because at some point in time, pill organizers and medication reminders and such are not going to be effective with the person living with dementia. And next, okay, driving, here's a biggie. And by the way, we have classes actually in each of these areas that we're talking about where we really kind of delve into it in more depth. So if that's something you're interested in, give us a call and we can either direct you as to when the next class is going to be or webinar, or to our webinar library so you can watch a previously recorded version of the class. But clearly, physical, cognitive, and sensory changes are going to affect driver safety. And so it's important to talk with the doctor right from the start of a diagnosis and follow the doctor's advice. If a doctor is saying that a person with dementia should not be driving any longer, please take that very seriously, because doctors are required to make a report to the Department of Motor Vehicles when a person with dementia is diagnosed. And doctors have the latitude to add more information or not. So they may say that a person's been newly diagnosed with dementia and is, in the doctor's opinion, still okay to drive. And the DMV gets that information. And they look at things on a case-by-case basis and make decisions based on that. So if the doctor's saying they think their patient is fine to continue driving, generally the DMV goes with that until such time as maybe it's time for a license renewal. If a doctor sends in a report to the DMV that says person should no longer be driving and was advised of same, the DMV gets that information. And, you know, if you are somebody who drives in spite of the doctor's recommendation not to, that could result in a bad situation for you, both in terms of if there's some kind of accident that you could be held responsible for injuries or damage. The other thing is, you know, if the DMV and the doctor have all agreed that a person with dementia should no longer be driving, then their license is suspended. And if they are caught driving, they may be arrested and the car may be impounded. You know, there's going to be repercussions. So think about these things ahead of time, proactively. Contact the DMV, talk with the doctor, and start looking at transportation alternatives. We all have to plan for this. If we live long enough, all of us are going to have to stop driving at some point in time. So it's a good thing if we just start looking at it now and talking about it now and making some plans. And let's go to the next one. Like driving, firearms, you know, require us to have capacity, the ability to make good decisions, use reasoning and judgment, handle firearms in a safe manner. And even if we've been handling firearms in a safe manner for all of our lives, maybe a person has even come from a law enforcement background and it's been a part of their professional life, that doesn't mean that their skills and knowledge stays with them throughout a dementia diagnosis, because in fact it doesn't. And so in the same kind of vein, we have to address these issues, and again, please, ahead of time, not waiting till there's some incident. And can be everything from considering getting weapons out of the house or transferring ownership of them. For sure, if you keep them in the home, have gun locks or keep them in a locked safe. And if you need help with any of those things, call us. We can give you a certain amount of help for sure. For example, we have gun locks that we can make arrangements for you to come by and pick up as many of those as you want at no cost. But additionally, assistance from local law enforcement. They can help with kind of the rules and regulations, particularly with regards to transferring of ownership. And there are requirements and restrictions with that, so keep that in mind. All right, let's go to the next one. Wandering. Okay, so again, like I said, if I had a nickel for every time a family member said to me, oh no, he's never wandered, it's not a problem for us, you know, I'd be living on my own private island down in the Caribbean somewhere. So everybody with a diagnosis of dementia is at risk. And a majority of people with dementia do wander and become lost at some point in time. This can happen by on foot or in a vehicle or on the bus. And I've seen all three of those scenarios play out over the course of my years. So why do people wander? All sorts of different reasons. Sometimes it's disorientation or confusion. My wife's been gone at the store all day. I don't know where she is or what's happened. So I'm going to hop in the car and go look for her because I'm really worried about her. Or memories of past activities. It's time for me to, you know, get ready and go to work. I'm up, it's the middle of the night. My husband is pointing out that it's dark outside and it's the middle of the night, but I don't perceive that. And I'm worried I'm going to be late for work. I'm worried I'm maybe going to get fired if I'm late. So I've got to get going. I've got to get to work. So it's memory of a past activity, and then that becomes that's the mission they have in mind. Sometimes it's physical needs or discomforts that I'm hungry, or, you know, I think I want to get a coffee from Starbucks, or whatever it might be that is leading people to wander and, you know, leave the home and then become lost. And sometimes it's just plain old agitation and restlessness, because people with dementia still experience that as well as the rest of us do. And so we need to kind of look at what some of those potential causes are and take some steps to try and start reducing the risk. And the quotes in the bubbles are just quotes that we've heard many, many times over the course of our years. And, you know, we still see people in these circumstances that have wandered and become lost. So what other things can we do to minimize or reduce the risk of wandering? We'll go to the next one. We do want to limit access to vehicles and keys. Now, what does your front door look like in your home? So at one point in our home, it's changed now, but at one point, we had a tray on a little table at the front door where we put our car keys every day when we got home. And, you know, we also do still have a little area rug where we leave our shoes. Lots of homes may have a coat rack or something where we pop our coats and maybe hang our purses. So if you've got all those things out there by the front door, that's giving a person with dementia all the cues and clues they need to say, oh, yeah, that's right, I was going to go do this. There's my purse, there's my coat, and there's the keys. I better get going. So we want to limit access to vehicle and keys, but also take away some of those visual cues that may inadvertently trigger somebody to wander out the door. Locks, avoid locks, but do consider the use of alarms, chimes, or room monitors. And we've worked with families who've tried and done any of these things. And, you know, they all work, but everybody's situation is a little different. So for example, with wind chimes, what you would do is hang them on the inside of the door that is the exit door, so that when anybody opens the door, you hear the chimes. And so that alerts you to the fact that the door is being opened. And so you go check, is it my husband trying to leave the home? But let's say if I have hearing loss and I don't have my hearing aids in yet today, I probably need more than chimes. So maybe we need an alarm that's much louder that I can hear. Room monitors work as well too. You know, some people use, it's the baby monitors they use, but certainly you can get, you know, other versions of that. So for example, the Ring doorbell, I mean, you could potentially set that up in any room of the house or in the inside front hall of the house, not to be used as a Ring doorbell, but it has the camera feature on it, so you can see if somebody's approaching. And some of these setups also will give you an alert that somebody is approaching the door. We already talked about moving items that suggest leaving. We can also camouflage doors and doorknobs. You can get some of these online at Amazon, also at the Alzheimer's store, where, for example, you get a big, it's kind of like a stick-on, but it covers the whole inside of the door, and it looks, for example, like a bookshelf with books on it. And sometimes that's enough of a visual cue to deter a person from going towards the door, because it doesn't look like a door. It looks like a bookshelf. And then again, we need to watch for those unmet physical needs like hunger, thirst, elimination, and just the need for movement. So these are ways we can reduce risk. What else? What other resources do we have for risk? Well, here in San Diego County, we have the Take Me Home program. This is a really good program, and it's no cost to any of you. It's run by the Sheriff's Department here in San Diego County, and it's a registry, and you access it. And by the way, we can help you do that at Alzheimer's San Diego. You can also contact the Sheriff's Department yourself, but probably call us and we'll walk you through the whole process. But there's a bunch of information that gets entered into this registry, and including a photograph, a recent photograph, emergency contacts, vehicle information, very importantly and unique to this program, fears and sensitivities. So for example, if my husband is nonverbal now with his dementia, and a police officer approaches him and says, "Sir, I need to see your identification," and my husband doesn't respond to him, you know, we're required by law to respond to an officer's instructions. And so if my husband doesn't respond, the law enforcement officer may mistake that for being non-cooperative. And so if my husband is in the database and I call, he's missing, so I call 911 and I say, my husband's missing, he has Alzheimer's disease, and he's registered in the Take Me Home program. Law enforcement will then access that information, and if I have in there that he is nonverbal, so, and maybe having problems processing language, so he may not respond to instructions. They see that information, it gives them just a better knowledge of and ability to approach the situation in a different manner. And yes, behavioral issues is another thing that we can enter in there. So it's pretty comprehensive. And again, it's voluntary, it's free, and law enforcement throughout the county works together with this. So the Sheriff's Department can reach out to any of the local PDs. And if you're in, let's say, City of Poway, then they'll be in touch with the Poway Police Department to let them know of the information in the Take Me Home database. So it's a really, really good program, folks. Next one. All right, what are some other community safety resources? Well, look at that. Top of the list is ElderHelp. And Carrie can speak more to this, but certainly one of the things they can do is some home safety inspections and some modifications, such as railings and safety bars, grab bars in the bathroom. And so we'll hear more from Carrie on that. Jewish Family Services has a Fix-It service where they do some similar things as well. And in the North County, there's Interfaith Community Services. So these are all organizations you can reach out to make arrangements to have someone from those programs come and install those things in your home, either at reduced or potentially no cost. So you don't need to, worry about, well, I need to buy these items and then get them installed. So it can happen much quicker than that. So contact these organizations. And then MedicAlert is a program that still exists, and this is the one where people wear either a bracelet or a set of dog tags that identifies them. In this case, with the diagnosis of some type of dementia, it's likely going to say that they're memory impaired. And also on that bracelet or dog tag is their MedicAlert number and then an 800 number. So it says memory impaired, MedicAlert number is under that, and it says to help, call 1-800 such, such, such. So any first responder or Good Samaritan who were to find somebody who appears lost and confused and disoriented would be likely looking for a MedicAlert bracelet. And if you see one, you look at it, then they would call this 800 number. And then MedicAlert puts their program into action to get in touch with the primary care partner and get the person to a safe place and then get them reunited with their families. So it's a program that still works well too. If you do go that way, which is totally fine, know that there is some cost to this one. I have to tell you, I'm not sure what the cost is right now. I should look that up. But do remember that the Take Me Home program here locally is at no cost. And then Alzheimer's San Diego, call us to get resources for home safety. All of these topic areas we've been discussing, gun locks, etc. The other thing we have that is really good and really helpful is we have a home safety checklist that will take you kind of room by room in the house with, what to be looking for, what are the safety risks in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the garage, in the backyard. And it is a big list. So if you call us and have that emailed out to you or sent out postal mail, don't look at it and go, that's, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. Take it a room at a time. You don't have to start big. You don't have to do it all in one fell swoop. Start with a small room, the bathroom, usually, and see what you can do in there to make it safer. Get these grab bars installed. Get a raised toilet seat. Look at, do I have Lysol and toilet cleaner and rubbing alcohol and things like that under the sink? Get those things out into the locked cupboard in the garage. So go room by room and just do it slowly, but do it proactively, folks, so that you're not responding to a crisis situation. Again, we don't want that for any of our families. So call us, and of course, call ElderHelp too, because in the same vein as Alzheimer's San Diego, ElderHelp can help you to kind of go through the checklist and the steps you can take to make the home environment safer and to reduce risks. So, and I think the last slide, there we are. There's Alzheimer's San Diego. All our programs are at no cost, they're free. And we're a local, independent, nonprofit organization. And so all of our fundraising that we do, all the monies stay here in San Diego to support our programs and services. We have dementia coaches answering the phone Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. I'm gonna sneeze, pardon me. Pardon me. And this is a team of folks that have lots of knowledge and lots of access to knowledge and resources and tip sheets and in resource lists and all sorts of other things too. So if you've got a question or a concern, or you need some help problem solving, or whatever it might be, call us, and chances are we can probably assist you in some way. And even if you just need to do some venting or have somebody listen, we're good at that too. And we have big shoulders and big hearts. And so please lean on that support that we can offer to you Monday through Friday. People can meet with a dementia care coach too, in person or by Zoom. And sometimes families are doing family meetings to just do some problem solving together. Sometimes we need to bring in somebody from outside the family to help us see what needs to be addressed and to begin working together on it, you know, to prioritize things and begin working together on it. So we have our education and training, which is what I do together with my colleagues. We have support groups, meeting both in person and virtually, and all sorts of specialized support groups. We have a companion-based program. It's volunteers that go in the home to spend time with the person with dementia so that the care partner can take a break. We have our social activities and outings. This is the one where we do have that exercise class with movement and music, in addition to all sorts of other fun things that they do. And it's for people with dementia and their care partners. We can do memory screenings for people who want to find out what their baseline is in terms of their memory and cognition. We can tell you about clinical trials for sure here in San Diego County. We have a program, Living Alone, that is specifically for people living alone in the community with some type of memory loss or cognitive issue. And again, that's staffed by volunteers, coordinated by Alzheimer's San Diego staff, but staffed by volunteers. And so lots of different things that we do. So there's our number at the bottom, 858-492-4400, and our website. You'll find it's, I think, pretty easy to navigate and lots of good information on the website. So that's who we are and what we do. And that's safety at home today. So again, just it's really kind of a general overview, getting you to think about the things that need to be addressed and planned for. And I can't emphasize that enough, because we just don't want to hear from families where they're operating in crisis response mode because of something terrible that's happened that, you know, has impacted safety in some regards. So give us a call.
Thank you so much, Jean. I always say I learn something new from you each time, so I appreciate you sharing all of that. You know, there's so many different aspects to staying safe at home and providing that support, and I think the preventative measures that you talked about are so important to everybody. So I hope that people took notes, and we'll also be sending out a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, as well as a recording of today's webinar. So if you know somebody else who wasn't able to make it that you want to share it with too, please feel free to pass that along. So thank you so much, Jean. That was wonderful and very comprehensive, which is great.
Good.
There's my, yeah.
Questions?
I don't see any questions yet. I had somebody share that they thought that it was an excellent presentation and appreciated the information. So if anybody has any questions, now is the time. Feel free to type them in to the question pane, and we're happy to answer those for you. And if you don't come up with a question during today's webinar, that's okay. You have our contact information, and I'll be sure to include that in my follow-up email to all of you as well, should you have a question that comes up after the fact. But I'm going to go through a couple slides while I see if there are any questions. Just another thank you again to Grossmont Healthcare District for sponsoring today's webinar. And then I did want to mention a save the date. We'll be having another webinar in August on the 14th at 11 o'clock with SDG&E. So talking about some of the scams that are coming out where people are impersonating SDG&E. So that will be helpful to know. They'll also talk about how to access your online support and the account, and how to maximize all of those services, how to stay informed during power outages, and all of those different aspects. So encourage anybody who's interested to sign up for that. I'll include that link in the follow-up email as well. And just a reminder, we do record all of our webinars, and so those can be found on our family caregiver page of our website. There's a webinar library, and you can see all of the previously recorded topics as well. And this is ElderHelp's contact information. If you do have any follow-up questions for us, our main phone number is there, or our email. My contact information is there, and of course our website that shares more about our programs. I didn't see any questions come in, so Jean, I think that you shared a lot of information that was helpful, and hopefully people will take that and be able to incorporate it into their lives and their families' lives, and keep people safer at home. So thank you for all of your expertise.
Yes, you're welcome. It's always a pleasure. And thank you, ElderHelp, for inviting me, and we'll continue to do this in the coming months. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh, it looks like there is one question that just came in. If you have any resources to help with home organization.
Yes, we do. We have a resource list on, there's actually an organization, a professional organization of professional home organizers, and some other professionals that work in a similar vein. So give us a call, and we can send you that resource information with like the contact information for these particular organizations.
Very good. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of things, and sometimes it can be overwhelming on knowing where to start. So yes, there are organizations that can help with that.
Absolutely.
So feel free to reach out.
Actually, it is helpful to have a professional come in, because sometimes we will listen to a professional better than we'll listen to family members. So if we're trying to downsize and my kids are telling me to get rid of this, that, and the next thing, and I'm telling them, no, I like that, I like that. If the comes in and says to get rid of it, I may be much more likely to listen to the organizer.
So yeah, very true. Very true. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining, and I'll be sending a follow-up email, so stay on the lookout for that. Thank you again, Jean, for your time. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. Take care, everybody.
All right. Bye.